Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests.
Episode 85, Mr. Steiner, the Halfling Rogue. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining Kevin Chenard's table and the levitating platter. Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast in my humbly biased opinion. I would like to go ahead and give a shout out to our first sponsor, Plus One EXP. Tony Vicenda is the mastermind behind his mastercraft of beard balms, game design, and community building. He's got a beard balm named after all the basic stats from D&D, so get a can, apply it to your face, and smell the sweet aroma and the sweet victory that comes along with increased strength, dexterity, charisma, and more. Beards and Beyond is the indie RPG that helped to launch this brand, but Tony's collaborated and developed several other projects, including Repugnant, iToaster, Down We Go, Through the Void, Vamp Nebula, and Brandstanding. If you support Plus One EXP either by going to their website and buying something or going to the itch page, tonyplusone.itch.io, it all helps funnel into the Plus One Forward program, which seeks to support additional indie tabletop content creators to continue making awesome stuff. I'd highly encourage you to follow Tony and Plus One on all the socials, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, in order to keep up with all the various projects that are being worked on, as well as upcoming interviews, one-shots, and actual plays of some of these amazing games. If you don't mind, please go to Plus One EXP, use my affiliate code Randolph when you're buying a beard balm or a beard RPG in order to get some savings on your purchase at no extra cost to you. Again, that code is Randolph at checkout on the website, plus1exp.com. Well, we've got a wonderful returning guest for you today, another one from the back catalog, as it were. So I'll go ahead and turn the microphone over and ask, hello, returning guest. For those who are new to the podcast, would you like to introduce yourself, tell us who it is that you are and what is it that you do?
Hello, my name is Kevin Chenard. I am returning for another go, new characters and fantastic new approach to the life of D&D and who that plays it. I am a aspiring streamer. I have been streaming now for 2 years. This is going to be my second year that I've gone at it at a steady pace, and I'm also a voice actor.
For those of us in the know, you happen to voice a number of characters for the Chad, a Fallout 76 podcast, correct?
That is correct. It was one of the first podcasts that I've really been going like steady with in the past few years. I have done quite a lot of different podcasts around the Fallout community as well, and I've been loving that, as well as some gaming podcasts. And I mean, I don't have a list like of all of them right now, but there are quite a few of them, and I've enjoyed my time with each and every one of them.
So you've been prolific within the last 2 years, because I had to check the calendar and be like, oh, when was the last time we spoke with Kevin? 2 years. I can't believe it. It's already been 2 years.
I mean, time flies when you forego sleep.
Yeah, that would do it. Yeah, for sure. On a episode where we have a returning guest, we like to go back through the same questions, but perhaps through a new light and new context. So are you playing D&D currently, or are you playing any other kind of tabletop role-playing game in the interim since the last time we spoke?
I have completed one with a couple of buddies and I. Basically, it was a a campaign that we had returned to an old 3.5 game. I do believe I had said it last time we were on. I'm more of like a 3.5 player. It's where most of my D&D knowledge comes from. But I am going to start into a new campaign soon that my girlfriend has started with a bunch of her friends and I.
Hmm.
And it will be a 5th edition. So I'm going to be
Ooh.
dipping my feet into something new and seeing if my old school 3.5 stuff can carry on and make me not seem like an absolute noobish entity in the whole realm of things.
I think that's very fortuitous that you mentioned that today because at the time of this recording, we just had a major presentation put on today by Wizards of the Coast, and so they were announcing the new project called One D&D, which is like the newest iteration that they're preparing for. They're like play testing it right now. My understanding is that it's still going to be back compatible with 5th edition, but it's trying to, incorporate some changes that have developed over the last, nearly 10 years since 5th edition has been out, and integrating it more so into a digital realm. So that'll be really interesting. So there was a number of different announcements of, not only Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, and all this stuff being integrated into Magic the Gathering, the card game, but just this news about Dungeons and Dragons 1 D&D as they're calling it. But also officially, Spelljammer has now launched for 5th edition as well. So those books are out. Certainly a time to be alive.
I'm always down for new products that especially when Wizards of the Coast tried to cater to having like a new generation of people and players coming to D&D. I mean, this has been going on since what, the 70s or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like 50 years.
yeah. So we're going pretty strong, and I mean, fantasy will always be a grabbing point for a lot of like kids and young adults and stuff like that. So I always find that D&D is just the perfect outlet for something like that. There's other gaming's always a big thing. You can pretty much run in any aspect. So I think the original, like, pen and paper, open a brand new PHB, and just go at it with someone who knows what they're doing in terms of DMing is always a great way to elaborate on one's imagination.
Well, of course, you remember this podcast is all about the sidekicks and the side quests. So, in the last few years since we've spoken, have you come across any new or interesting NPCs or sidekick characters, whether they're from a RPG, a video game, or maybe literature or television or a film or something like that? And what has struck you about this new character that you've come across?
Ah, man, I mean, there's just been so many like for me, it's, as I was saying, being a streamer and just generalized like really big gamer, I'm always looking for that next big world to jump into and just lose myself in. And I think one of the games that was kind of controversial, if you will,
Hmm.
that came out that really, really grabbed me, especially with the world and its characters, would probably be Cyberpunk 2077. I'm a huge Cyberpunk fan. I have been for many, many years. And I remember when I first heard about this game coming out, and we got the reveal that Keanu Reeves was going to play one of the main characters. They basically took him and put him in the game, facial and everything.
Hmm.
And Johnny Silverhand, I absolutely love the character. From the very beginning, you see that he's just a giant like he just hates life in general. He hates people, and he's got a really dark past. And the more and more you go into the character and you find out about what happened to him, you see his character evolve. And depending on the choices that you take, he comes out to being like, I really looked at life the wrong way. Like, you're not a bad guy. Like, it's just almost a white and black situation from the start of the game to the end of the game. And I think I absolutely love the character.
That's not a franchise that I'm familiar with, but of course I am familiar with the E3 footage where Keanu Reeves came out on stage and said, "No, you're beautiful." And to go along with this as well, has there been a new or interesting side quest that you've come across? Whether, again, it's from an RPG, a video game, literature, film, television, and why has it been a new or interesting side quest for you? I remember last time you were telling us about coffee and Final Fantasy.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Final Fantasy IX, the Mr. Moreau's coffee is
Mm-hmm.
always one that sticks to me, just because of it was such a huge thing in my childhood, and it's just something that you can miss. I mean, now I don't know if I could really say like something of a side quest, more main quest, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably have to go back to Cyberpunk 2077. The main quest is basically about, for those of you who haven't played it, you start off an original character. He's just a normal, street kid. Doesn't really have a name to himself, but eventually he stumbles into some really dangerous lifestyle, if you will. He gets involved with corporations, corruption, and the whole shindig. If Night City being the heart of it all. The main quest is Johnny Silverhand's intelligence, which is in a chip, gets embedded into your head, and it's a prototype. So what eventually ends up happening is the more you go through the game, the more time passes. Johnny's whole imprint starts corrupting you, and the more you let it go, the more that you lose yourself, and Johnny eventually takes over. At the end of the game, you have the ultimate decision to make. Do you end it? Do you let Johnny take over, or do you fight it? This is where, like, Cyberpunk being a game where a lot of the game reflects on the choices that you make, kind of like Mass Effect was famous for that. You can basically go off, like the whole like suicide angle eventually fades away, and it comes down to, well, do you give your body to Johnny so that he can live on, and because he was stripped of his life earlier on, or do you go on and Johnny eventually fades into nothingness? He becomes a memory. So at this point, Johnny becomes a really, like, a lovable character. I absolutely loved him, and it was like heartbreaking to choose between that. And I'm not going to spoil the absolute end because there are multiple endings,
Mm-hmm.
but you get to that fork in the road where, what do you choose? Do you choose yourself and be kind of selfish? There's a philosophical debate with that. Or do you choose to give Johnny his freedom? The game basically ends with your decision and what you've done in the game giving you a certain ending, which all of them are really great endings.
And then to round out the personal interview section again, have you come across or developed any new passions since the last time we spoke?
I wouldn't say developed anything new, but developing my craft, taking on voice acting projects here and there. I've been involved with a couple of projects that are in the works right now that I can't really talk about, but maybe sometime down the line will be something cool. But my main focus right now is really my streaming. Been doing it for 2 years, like I said, now going steady, still very much enjoy it, constantly learning. I can't say that I've learned it, and I'm just honing it now. It's just a constant learning experience, getting to collab with other people, to growing a community. We're looking into a YouTube channel very soon, so I've been trying to learn of video editing and all that avenue that comes with that. So it's a constant learning experience, and I'm having a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's been a wonderful time here in the personal interview section of the show, catching up with Kevin, that I now think it's time to head into a segment that I like to call NPC creation. NPC creation is brought to you by you, the podcast audience, and our patrons from Patreon. That's right, now is the time where we give a shout out to our comfortable patrons and above, and we give you all a loud hoorah. So to you, Katie Downey, a.k.a. Goblin Katie, we say cheers. This is for patrons who donate $2 or more a month. Katie is our highest tier patron at the wealthy level, so that means she's able to add an element of chance to our random tables in NPC creation, which we might get to use here today. So if you want to join the cheapest podcast Patreon community, be sure to check out the show notes below, go to the podcast website, or just go directly to patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests to find out more about our 3 tiers, $1, $2, $4 a month, and help us to expand our operations at the Levitating Platter in this demiplane and worlds beyond. All right. So I remember last time that we were in this segment of the show, you had a character that you had previously played, and we converted that character into an NPC. But this time, you've elected to roll the dice and randomly generate a character today. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's go the chaotic way and just pull something out of the void and see
There
what
we
we get.
go. Awesome. Well, if you've got all your dice at the ready, whether they're physical or virtual, we like to start with the name. So if you want to get a d20 and give that a roll, let's figure out what is going to be the name of our character.
All right, let's take a look here. You know what? I had a little something prepared for this,
Oh,
and it's something that a couple of my friends and I used to do when we didn't really have a strong idea of what do we want to play. We basically came up with a sheet that had a certain amount of races and classes, and we would roll chaotically to see what exactly we were playing. Whatever we rolled, we had to stick with. So I'm going to roll a d10. I have 10 races here and I have 10 classes. And let's see what we end up going with. And then we'll roll some stats to see how good or how bad that character is going to be. All right. So here's going to be the first one. So I rolled a 4, and that is going to be a rogue.
okay.
And then we'll roll for race. And that's going to be a 2. And a 2 is going, well, okay. A 2 is going to be a halfling. So
Okay.
we're kind of, in a, I wouldn't say a stereotypical, but it's not something that we haven't seen before.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So we know the ancestry of the character and the job of the character. So everything else we get to kind of roll with my random tables. Is that correct?
Sure, let's go for it.
Sure, yeah. So if you've got a d20, we can go ahead and roll and figure out what's the name of our halfling rogue.
All right. We're rolling a 14.
14. Okay, so your answer was provided by previous guest Jonathan Blevins. Steiner. Steiner. Steiner.
All right.
That sounds like a very strong name for a halfling rogue.
Or we're thinking like maybe like a stout halfling, maybe at this point.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. And then if you wanted to roll a d8, we could kind of get an idea of the age range of the halfling rogue named Steiner.
We're going with a 6.
6 is elder, so Steiner's a little bit older in his career, it might seem.
All right. Okay.
Well, now would be the time where we would pause on the dice rolling because we come to the question of describe the physical appearance of Steiner, the halfling elder rogue.
You know what? I picture a rugged halfling, he was that jovial, excited character in his younger ages, but as he's as we say, seen some, we're looking at maybe a couple of scars here and there. He's been in some rough battles, maybe not looking as good as he used to in his young age. So I'm thinking more of like a rugged, we've got some scarring going on, maybe a dagger or sword slit here, maybe some longer hair, not really kempt. I'm thinking like just quick ponytail, doesn't feel like doing his hair in the morning.
I got some Sir Sean Connery rock vibes, like
Yeah.
before he gets cleaned up
th-
by the FBI stylist or whatever.
yeah,
Uh,
that's what I'm looking at too. Something like that.
and if you had to describe Steiner with 3 adjectives, what 3 adjectives would you use?
Hmm. 3 adjectives that I would use. Reserved. I'm gonna say polite and impulsive.
Interesting. So someone who's reserved and polite, but yet they're impulsive. That must be the roguishness coming through.
Right, exactly. So the way that I'm seeing it is he tends to keep to himself, but he's polite about it. He's seen how the world can be cruel to people. And
Mhm.
that's basically, carved him around the edges where he tries to be polite in his old age because he's seen it. He's been through it. Depending on where you've grown up in the world, you've seen some racism, orcs, and, some people might not like a traditional elf, stuck up and stuff like that. So I think that's where his politeness would come through, and as well as being a rogue. He's probably gone through the back alleys quite enough, so tries to to keep a polite tone to his demeanor and when he speaks to people. Impulsive is probably more his rogue experience.
Opportunistic. So like if he sees something he knows, like I better take the chance to do this now before I miss out on it, kind of a thing.
Exactly. I'm thinking this would absolutely be his lifestyle kind of bleeding through in his personality, the experience that he has in his line of work. I'm thinking more he would be at first, the start off pickpocket, the opportunistic type of rogue. And now he's more of like the smuggler, like he's more of the back end type of rogue where he'll play people instead of scenarios to get what he wants.
Does he operate by himself? Is he part of a gang? Does he have any kind of affiliation? Are you just going to meet him randomly in a bar? I'm just kind of wondering what kind of environment are we going to probably find him in?
I think he'd be more of like a city slicker in a way, more of like a fence, but with a reputation. So I don't think you'd ever meet him for business as a first contact. I think you would have to know someone to get into his line of business. And then if you were worth, his coin, then you'd probably meet him.
So he's in charge of a whole like fencing operation then.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at it like.
The next thing we like to roll is a combination of 2 dice because we need to figure out what's going to be a valuable item, a piece of lore, a secret, or an ideal or concept that Steiner would ascribe to. So it's a D4 for the category and then a D6 for the particular valuable item.
All right, let's go with that D4. 1.
Okay, so this is going to be a valuable item and then a D6 for which item it will be.
5.
5. Okay, interesting. We'll see how this works out. Your answer was submitted by previous guest Ansa Jablinski. Steiner has a key to the city. So what does that mean?
Oh boy. Oh boy, there's like endless possibilities for this. I think okay, we're going to go real underground here. I think he's got a politician in his pocket.
Oh boy.
He uses this particular politician to get what he wants. The guards tend to leave him alone and don't meddle in his business.
Okay.
And he's quote unquote inherited this key to the city to help him in his business.
Because we said he was a fence, so does he have a public presenting persona or business or guild or something that he operates that normal people of the citizenry of the peasantry would be like, oh, that's Steiner. He runs the so-and-so business and really cares about the city and all that kind of stuff. And so people are always looking up to him. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, behind the secret wink, wink, nudge, nudge, he actually is knee deep in criminal enterprise.
You know what? I'm going to just give you a name, and I think it pretty much puts exactly what the whole idea would be. The Kingpin from the Marvel comics.
Oh, right. Yeah. Wilson Fisk. Yeah.
So people know who he is. People know that he's an important figure. He's got the reputation. He's got a face that he puts on for the public, and people respect him for that. But those who know him know that everything is behind a curtain. He's the master of the criminal underworld. I think that would come in
and kind of
well.
a very interesting juxtaposition because traditionally within the comics, even in the MCU portrayal, Vincent D'Onofrio is the actor who portrays Wilson Fisk in the MCU. He's a very large, imposing individual, and even in the animated movie with Into the Spider-Verse, Wilson Fisk is this comically large, oversized, and just a very small head. So to kind of see the inverse of this, where we have like, oh, what would normally appear like, oh, it's a well-to-do, halfling gentleman who's like well connected with society, but meanwhile, in his elder years, this ruthless, maybe not ruthless, because we did say he was reserved and polite, but just very hard, very efficient, very no nonsense when it comes to his criminal business, as it were.
Yeah, maybe crossing him, like people have over exaggerated people disappearing like at the snap of his fingers, like maybe it's something like that. So maybe it's played a little bit higher than what it really is, but sometimes word is enough to scare someone into being submissive, so maybe he uses that to his advantage.
So Steiner is just someone who's well-to-do as far as the nobility or the mercantile or anything like that is concerned, just like is investing in all these public works and projects and stuff like that for the kingdom, for the city, the town, or whatnot. But meanwhile, I'm actually super involved with my fencing operations or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
The final dice that we would have to roll would be for the side quest. What's something that Steiner is going to need our player characters to go and do on his behalf? If you want to roll randomly, that's a D12. Or if you're already inspired, you can go ahead and kind of throw out an idea of a side quest. Or if you want to meld the two together.
You know what? We've gone with the dice so far. Let's keep it going.
Okay.
D12, we're looking at a 6.
6. Okay, interesting. All right. So then this answer was submitted by our previous guests, Anson Jablinski and Elvia Garcia. So the side quest would be to deliver a care package to a sister town or city and that particular mayor. So is this sort of like oh, hey, we need you to go deliver this to the sister city or town, that's associated with us. Maybe it's a different kingdom or on the other side of the world or whatnot, but it's maybe something to do with the criminal stuff, but doesn't let on to the players that like actually the care package that you're delivering to this other mayor is nefarious or underhanded or sneaky or something.
I think at this point what it would probably be that's the notion, right? Is that this is going to be something mundane. It's like a small delivery, but it's a front. It's obviously a front so that there could probably be like a meeting between this mayor, let's say, of this other town, probably negotiating like some sort of dealings or maybe some contraband exchanges or information, maybe trade routes or something like that of another caravan that visits that town frequently to do trade.
So on the surface, the player characters won't be aware of any of that other stuff unless they're sneaky and they decide to peek into the contents, as it were. But we need to consider the consequences of the side quest. So what's going to be the reward for success if the players successfully deliver this care package to the sister town, sister city's mayor?
I think there would be an extra monetary value. They would, let's say, balling it, we're giving you 50 gold if you present this to the mayor, blah, blah, blah. Steiner and the mayor would have their own exchange, probably away from the party, that would reward him with either hush money or maybe like a bribe of some sort. Maybe Steiner has something on this mayor, or he's just getting a bigger cut that he's negotiated. Originally 50 gold for the party. Steiner, for some reason, oh yeah, I was able to, get this information, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden an extra 25 gold shows up in someone's pocket. No one questions it, but hey, we did a really good job.
So you're saying that after the fact that someone else in the party is getting awarded this extra amount of money, or that Steiner is benefiting in some extra way after the success of the players?
I think Steiner would make it so that the mayor would seem like he's giving extra to the party for a good job, but
Mhm.
really, since Steiner is part of the party, it's part of his loot as well. So he gets rewarded extra either way, and it doesn't look like Steiner is directly influencing this decision.
Oh, okay, I see. So this other mayor of this other sister city town gets the care package, examines it, and then realizes what it actually is, and then will reward the party, which then I guess that money would get back to Steiner then. Whatever it is, whether it's an amount of money or it's like something that's of great value to Steiner in return.
Exactly. And I
Okay.
mean, this doesn't have to be an extra monetary value. This could be, like I said, could be valuable information on something that Steiner is probably after that wouldn't make it look conspicuous. It could be in a form of an extra quest. We've
Sure.
just finished this quest. We get a reward for it. We talk to the mayor. Mayor goes, "Oh, by the way, I've got a job for you. I've just come into this information about a local gang, blah, blah, blah. We eliminate that gang, completely Steiner's enemy in his trade. So now he gets, two birds with one stone. He gets paid for it and he eliminates competition.
But now we have to consider the opposite. So, what's going to be the consequence of failure or refusing the call to the adventure? What's going to be the consequence if our players are a little too suspicious and not respecting the privacy of mail? What's going to happen?
I think at this point, Steiner comes off, he's a rogue. So probably to the party, he's chaotic good. He's not all that lawful, but, he's a rogue. But really, he's more chaotic neutral. He's done some very shady stuff. He's not really all that good. He'll do some evil if he has to get his way or to get that extra pinch of gold coin. And I think what would happen is that the players would be onto Steiner basically lying to the party of who he really is, which would result in a cascade of we don't really trust him. So maybe we start excluding him from certain things that we talk about. Maybe we start looking into his quote unquote businesses. Maybe we look into his past, which would lead down to maybe the players finding out about the shady stuff. Does he get kicked out of the group? Do they call the guard on him? Do they expose his politician friend? I think the negatives are very heavy if he is discovered, basically.
See, I was thinking that Steiner was just going to be like, oh, hey, I hired, this group of individuals to go deliver this care package for me. I didn't realize that Steiner was actually journeying with the party, which that seems to even raise the stakes even further, that if Steiner's traveling with the care package, and then at some point the player characters are somehow able to secret away the care package to start snooping in it and stuff like that, I feel like that might even generate maybe even a combat encounter, depending on how poorly the persuasion or apologies go, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. In a previous game I was in, it was something that had happened with the players. There was one particular player that was in it for himself,
Mm-hmm.
and they made sure that the party did not know. The party eventually did find out, and it led to an encounter where the one party member flipped and became an enemy mid-combat.
Whoa.
And it was quite something. So I think that would be a very much of an opportunity. Let's say they make it into the new town. They accuse the mayor of, lowballing or being part of the secret society. Somehow Steiner is involved in this. Steiner flips. There's the encounter.
And we're probably imagining some kind of higher level NPC rogue character that's like a master, if not a master assassin, at least a master thief that has a fair bit of tricks and magic items or something at play.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what are the goals and motivations of Steiner as a character?
Money and power. Absolutely. Controlling the town he's in. He's got that key to the city. It was his first big victory for him. Now, probably total control. That politician in his pocket turned him into a puppet leader. And it's easy sailing from that on. You can probably go into the world a little bit further out, influence the towns around. Yeah, criminal kingpin. Let's go. Let's do it.
We're just steering into the full Kingpin then. Awesome. And how do these goals and motivations affect Steiner's general personality?
I feel like he doesn't take anything at face value. Everyone's against him. I think he is starting to become paranoid, maybe.
Okay.
I think that would be a big drive that would, well, not a drive, but a consequence of his dealings over time. I think he's starting to become a little paranoid. People are stealing maybe a couple silver coins, copper coins here or there on trades. He can't trust anybody.
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't read it myself, but I'm pretty sure there's like a run of Daredevil comics where like Wilson Fisk is the mayor of New York City or something like that. So I'm trying to imagine like this is like a Wilson Fisk character who's been in power for a long time, but now we're starting to see like, okay, now his psyche, his paranoia, his not being able to trust people any further is like, it's getting more to him. So that's kind of interesting. And especially if you're having this caliber of a character traveling with a group of player characters who like, oh, he just seems like a nice businessman and, he really cares about politics and his community and stuff like that. We're just going to escort him basically, but really under the surface, like this is all bubbling and stuff.
Yeah, like probably he sends like some of his henchmen to keep tabs on other workers, thinking like, maybe he's not trustworthy, and he's kind of undermining himself because of that.
And then how does Steiner normally interact with people? Is he generally the same across the board, or does he have nuance when it comes to different groups of people, like family and friends versus enemies and rivals versus people he works with or people who report to him?
I think it would be the same because you got to keep up a certain image, right? So I think interactions would be very much the same, but he's very calculating, almost to the point where he seems cold.
Because he's got wheels within wheels within wheels, and so
Like
okay.
he's a constant chessboard, He's got to think like 30 moves ahead, make sure he's got everything down, no one's getting the best of him, stuff like that.
But meanwhile, it's like he's also second guessing himself at the same time the entire time as well. It
Right.
seems like. Does Steiner have a particular accent or language that he speaks with? Are there any idiosyncrasies in how he acts or speaks?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably like something rough. Like you can feel the age and experience in his voice. He's less for conversation, straight to the point. I think that would fit him very well. Mannerisms, he always just seems ready, just in case something happens. Like he's already got a hand at his side, or his back is always facing a wall,
Mm-hmm.
or he's always standing close to an exit, something like someone who's really, really attentive to details like that
And
will
tactically
pick,
minded.
and tactically minded will think, will see this.
What impact has Steiner made on the world? How has Steiner shaped the local area? Obviously, he's very much in the everything business when it comes to the particular town you're starting out in. But what does that impact look like on the world or the surrounding area?
To be honest, I think he would come off as like a local hero.
Mm.
Okay, in the sense that he helps the community, quote unquote, helps, all at face value. He'll help the kid that fell down. Lady needs help with moving crates or something like that. He'll help them out. Someone's maybe behind on their payments. Here's a gold coin to help out. Like he's a real people's person, but it's all at face value. It's all for image.
Does Steiner have any current problems that prevent him from being a bigger player on the stage?
His age, I think. I think
Mm.
his age would be a factor right now. He wants to do everything himself more and more as he ages because he trusts less and less people. But every time he wakes up in the morning and he feels his knees, it reminds him that he can't go out and deal with all of his own problems. He's got to be able to give out tasks. He's got to be able to find another way to deal with those outlying highway bandits that are jumping his caravans, or stuff like that, and that costs him money that he wouldn't want to spend, because he knows that maybe 30 years ago he'd be able to walk up on those little streets and take care of them himself.
All right. Well, I think we've painted quite the portrait of a character from just a few simple dice rolls that now I think it's time to head into a segment that I like to call the random encounter. This random encounter is brought to you by Reaper Miniatures. They have been Texas Titans of the tabletop industry since 1994. They're here in DFW, and they've got an amazing warehouse and game store. They make everything from paints to gaming accessories, and they stream on Twitch and YouTube with tutorials and interviews. Whatever system you're running, whatever game you're playing, Reaper has a miniature for you. Every time you shop and spend money with them, at least $40, $50 on your purchase, they're going to give you a cool new mini of the month, and it's always something new, so all the more reason to shop often. I've gotten several gift cards from them over the months that we have had a sponsorship, and every time I get one, I'm ever so thankful that I can spend my money with a local business and really get some cool minis in the process. I know that on Kickstarter, the Reaper Miniatures Bone 6 Tales from the Green Griffin has already wrapped up on that, so be sure to get plugged into that. Check out the backer kit if you still want to get involved and get some cool exclusive minis. There is a special relief effort miniature that you can get, a Kenku Bard Nightingale character. It costs $9.99, and of that, $7.50 is allocated towards UNICEF relief efforts for Ukraine. So if you visit my website or check the show notes below, you can use my referral link in order to go shopping on the Reaper Miniatures website and support Sidekicks and Side Quests at the same time. By clicking that link, you're helping to direct traffic towards Reaper Miniatures, and the more that we direct their way, the more that our Texas powers combine. So again, go check out that link and be sure to follow Reaper Miniatures on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. So, of course, we do the little scene, the little vignette. I think it's appropriate that you're Steiner, but the question I have is, who am I going to be in the scene? Am I one of my podcast adventurer characters getting the side quest? Am I one of your employees? Am I this politician character that you're having a meeting with? I don't know. What kind of scene are you interested in presenting today?
Let's go with party member. We can do that whole exchange of fake parcel to that small town, that delivery quest, if you want.
Okay, so you're interested in doing a scene with one of my podcast characters, but at the point of where the side quest is being completed?
Yeah, let's do
Ooh.
that.
As far as my list of characters is concerned, we've got 4 of them. We have Duncan, who's the who you may remember is the recklessly brave adventurer for hire, happy-go-lucky. We've got Sonia, the warrior woman, who started off as a barbarian, multi-classed into paladin. We have Korak, who's a lawful evil arcane trickster dwarf. And then we have Chrisley, who is the shy herbalist, botanist, wood elf druid who multi-classed into cleric. Or if none of those sound interesting, I'd be open to you rolling your 2d10s there and generating a random ancestry and a character class, and then I could make that as the adjoining new podcast character, as it were.
All right, well, let's do that then. Let's roll those d10s. And
All
see
right,
what we
a
get.
new podcast NPC character, folks. Let's see what we get.
So we've got ourselves a 9, which is going to be an elf.
Okay.
And the second one is a 3, which will be a wizard.
Ooh, have not had a wizard character yet, but an elven wizard. Okay, so since Chrisley was our last elf character that was created, I'll go ahead and say another male elf character, but an elven wizard.
How about if I give you the school of magic that you're going to be part of? So the school of magic is going to be illusion.
Astral elf Orion. So we'll say like he uses the constellation moniker of Orion as his name. He has a real name, which will be determined later off screen, but he'll otherwise go by Orion.
So imagine we just arrived into town. We're quite tired. We met with some lowly bandits on the road. Obviously, for some reason, it seemed that those bandits may have not been there by coincidence. Maybe they were looking for something. We kind of, don't mind it too much, got rid of them, make it into town, and now we're heading towards this particular mayor's office. And as we make our way inside the office, seems a little strange, but the office seems a little packed with people. There are a couple of men here that seem to be working out some papers. Besides that, there seem to be a couple of quote unquote guards. The mayor's, well, I'm not going to say henchmen, but you see some people that are clad in like leathers and studded leathers with, some swords or rapiers at their sides, obviously guardsmen of some sort. And the minute that we make it into the mayor's office, we are instantly greeted as if he was already waiting for us. He knew that we had arrived. And immediately you see a stern look on Steiner's face, like, there's just too many things that seem out of the ordinary here. Like, why did he greet us the second we opened the door? Like, there's a puzzling look on his face, and you can see that he's a little bit weary. He's looking all around. He's looking at the men that are in the room. He's looking at how many windows there are. Is there a back door? Like, everything is coming to him right away.
So the mayor has greeted our party, whether that's just the two of us or there's other nameless other adventurers behind us as well. But I suppose, the mayor greets us, and Orion looks over and he can see kind of all this happening on Steiner's face. And they, of course, have bonded a little bit on the road. And so Orion will just very quickly take a small moment to just kind of ask him, like, Are you going to be all right, Mr. Steiner? Are you okay?
I'm all right for now, but keep an eye on the door, will you?
Yes, yes, sir.
Let's just say that we're like an even party of four here. We've got a burly gentleman fighter with us, and another let's say cleric. We've got a cleric in the party.
And Orion definitely has an astral elf, which I imagine maybe in the more mundane world, his reasons for coming to the mundane world, very interesting. So he's definitely being deferential. He's also respecting, the fact that he was hired along with these other people to like escort Mr. Steiner and like protect him and oversee his well-being. So he does take his role seriously. And so he will do as instructed. He will mind the door and just keep very quiet and observe the situation. And then, as the mayor of this town, motions for people to stop their side conversations and such, so he'll probably continue on with like, Mr. Steiner, welcome from our sister city. Yes, you've journeyed all this way. And we'll probably motion for everyone to kind of give like polite applause and stuff like that to like, give dues and propers and all that stuff.
Okay. So Steiner walks up to the gentleman the last few feet as they enter, and he gives him a handshake, and he says, "Yes, it seems that we've been expected, even though I did say that we were going to arrive a little bit later in the evening. But nonetheless, I am glad to be here. There's only one thing that worries me, though. It's the growing numbers of thieves on the roads here. Do you not have patrols out dealing with these bandits?"
We'll say that this other mayor character, you can see some like visible beads of sweat starting. This mayor character will begin the series of half committal sort of answers of like, oh yes, of course. I mean, we have the finest patrolmen, watchmen that patrol the roads in and out of the city. Of course, the mayor is tripping over his words as he's trying to appease Mr. Steiner, as it were.
Now, seeing as the mayor is visibly shook by this jest of words from Steiner, you see that Steiner starts to calm down a little bit, like almost like he played into every word that he said. And Steiner takes the package that we were supposed to deliver and gives it to the mayor, but doesn't give it directly to him. He lays it on the table in front of him, and he says with a stern look to the mayor, he says, "Now, this is the package that you did request, did you not?"
And the mayor will nod nervously. Orion from the back is just kind of perplexed, but I mean, he's just watching it all. And the other two adventurers that were hired as well, they're just kind of nonchalantly just leaning against the door, leaning against a wall, and just kind of waiting for this as if like, oh, this is just like a normal routine thing. We're just waiting for all this stuff to be concluded so we could get paid and go off on our next adventure. But Orion is trying to pay attention and, observe everything that he possibly can.
So Steiner continues, and he basically takes a small parchment out of his coat and he lays it on the table as well. And he looks the mayor up again and he says, "But I'm surprised to find this as well. Would this be your handwriting, sir?"
It seems like with Mr. Steiner having all the cards all the time, yeah, the mayor like beside himself is like he's trying to like grab a handkerchief and like wipe his brow, and he's trying to like play off with a laugh or something like that of just like, where did you ever intercept that? I'm sorry, that must have gotten So he's trying to make up more excuses and try and not appear like he's not in control, even though clearly he's not in control.
So this is where Steiner would play the ace. Okay. He would pick the parchment back up, which is obviously a forged document that he made himself, perfecting the signature of the mayor. And he slightly walks towards the captain of the guard that he would already know, and he would hand him the paper and say to the captain and say, "Now here are documents that I had found on one of the thieves that jumped us, explaining that a payment would be done twice the original, signed by the mayor. Now you see, Documents like this, in the right hands, would call for quite the coup, and diplomatic problems would arise between my hometown and the towns here. I do see that you would be so kind as to escort the mayor to his proper cell before this turns into the wrong hands. And he gives it to the guard captain.
And it's almost like maybe the guard captain was expecting this, maybe if they've been in league a long time, or just like very quickly the energy of the room turns, and now suddenly the mayor thought he was surrounded by friends. Now all of a sudden he's surrounded by enemies just by the sheer presence of command that Steiner has. And so all the other like civil servants or whoever are just kind of like hushed whispers to each other, like, oh, I can't believe the mayor would do this. And so then the guards very quickly snap to attention and they grab the mayor briskly. They escort him out of the room past your party as they make their way past the door. And the mayor is just like hysterically crying, I don't understand. I don't, basically just kind of saying that over and over again.
I
And
think this would be like a perfect time where, like, as he's being cuffed and taken away, like Steiner adds to the performance, goes into a monologue about like, like, in my line of work, Mr. Mayor, you always stay like 2 steps ahead. You make sure that people don't double cross you, and you always expect the worst.
And then Orion's watching this all and he's captivated by the performance. The other two adventurers, oh, it's just business as usual. The captain of the guard thanks Mr. Steiner for his services and everything like that. And your group is escorted out as they're now having to deal with the change of leadership, probably something that Mr. Steiner was planning.
I think after all the commotion would happen, Steiner would make a stern gesture towards his party member just to let them know that, look, anything can happen. Bad things will always happen. But like I said, as long as you keep a head up, evaluate your situation, and make sure that you always, always keep your friends close, but you always keep your enemies closer. You'll always come out on top.
And so, yeah, Orion will just continue on with Mr. Steiner seemingly being taken under his wing and being in a strange new plane, eating it all up and trying to learn what lessons he can.
Absolutely. And maybe he can corrupt them somehow.
Oh, no.
Having a wizard with illusionary magic under your employ would be so beneficial.
And scene. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to close it out. So, what did you think of getting to play Mr. Steiner?
I want to make a character now.
So now you're going to go through and make a whole character, turn Steiner into a player character. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, wouldn't he be a really good recurring villain, though, too? You
Oh,
think
for
about it?
sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think he would be great to drop in, if you're in Forgotten Realms and Waterdeep or your own homebrew games or whatever else. Yeah, I think Mr. Steiner would be a wonderful addition to your game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, of course, we're here now in the final thoughts. So, of course, we like to, check in with our guests and see how they did and how they're feeling and if they had fun and all that good stuff.
I'm always up for creating new characters. I mean, you get addicted to it after a while and you see what angles you can spin within the game. And what I think makes character creation so much fun is that when you have a group of players who put their own spin and their own love within their own characters, and you get those characters to interact, you can get some amazing storytelling.
I always like to leave the final moments of the show for my guests. So the stage, the platform, the soapbox is yours. So where can we find you on the internet? What projects do we need to be following? And any other passions or causes or anything else you want to share? The stage is yours.
Absolutely. Again, my name is Kevin Chenard. On Twitch, you can find me on www.twitch.tv/OsirisDvirus. That is DE virus. And if you're a fan of Con Air, you'll get that reference. But you can also follow me on Twitter, all my socials through that at Osiris the Virus.
And be sure to listen to Chad, a Fallout 76 podcast, where you can hear Kevin voice a number of interesting characters throughout the seasons of the show. I know we're starting to come up to some kind of finale now, I think,
We're
right?
almost at the end of season 2. There's just a couple of episodes left, and things are starting to heat up a lot.
There we go. Always great to talk with you, Kevin. It's delightful. One of the first Canadians ever on the podcast. So I'm glad you were able to come back, and hopefully we can invite you back again to make more random chaotic characters.
It was my pleasure. Thank you again for having me on. And absolutely, I would love to come back and throw some new and exciting story at you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, and Overcast, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit by searching for SideKQ Podcast. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. If you would like to hail the bard, simply send an email to sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you please leave a review on iTunes to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, or you've never played Dungeons & Dragons before, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. And finally, after 2 years, I've decided to open a Patreon for Sidekicks and Side Quests. If you love this podcast and you want to help us grow and expand our operations, I would appreciate it if you would go on over to patreon.com/sidekicks and side quests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Your name on the wall of the levitating platter, a loud hurrah on the podcast, or the possibility to introduce an element of chance to NPC creation. Sidekicks and Sidequests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy, meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards. Portions of the materials used are property Wizards of the Coast, copyright Wizards of the Coast, LLC. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sidekicks and Sidekicks.